Early in the episode, we get a musical sequence where Vox and his lackeys work together to convince people disappointed by Charlie's desire for redemption that they should sell out and push Vox's causes instead. And this sets up scenes between the V's afterwards where they discuss the big plan. But we also see the characters' dynamic shining through, with Vox overshadowing his lackeys. Vox is ambitious, and he doesn't want to just gain more control in hell, but to conquer heaven as well. This isn't seen just as a dictator type move, but also a spiritual one, with Vox claiming he wants to become a god. This makes sense considering that the entity that controls heaven, hell, and thus the earth is the figure we think of as God. And controlling all three of these would make Vox the controller of all of creation. But it doesn't end with this sort of figurative comparison. In this scene, Vox and the V's drop some major lore about Vox's backstory, his life on Earth. We already knew since before the Hazbin Hotel pilot that Vox had a life a bit similar to the one he has in hell, as an important person involved with early TV. Vox would have been one of the earliest people to get into hell with the insight of TV and what it could be used for. So in addition to his natural TV-based sinner powers, he also had the actual experience to implement his ideas there. In this episode, however, Vox alludes to something more he did on Earth. Vox said that he was the leader of an important group, one that he thought of as a special movement, but which Valentino claims was a cult. This is interesting as it seems to allude to the fringe theory, if you will, that our real-life TV and movie industries were run by Freemasons. Freemasonry is legally a charitable fraternity that has been publicly active since the 1700s, and privately active for at least a few centuries before that. This fraternity is often claimed to be a cult due to its initiation system, which is modeled after what we call the mystery school tradition, dating all the way back to ancient Egypt. This was not some fringe outlier in Egyptian society, but rather this was the religious tradition of the Egyptian pharaohs and the high priestly class. This original ritual had been adapted by various groups all over the world for the last 6,000 years, and in some places was referred to as a mystery cult instead of a mystery school, in particular when it was not associated with official governments or churches. This was the case in Greece with the mystery cult of Dionysus, whose ritual was the same as the mystery school of the Greek Eleusinian mysteries, but which wasn't seen as more legitimate because it didn't have the same government oversight. Now, the accusation against Freemasonry is that it has controlled governments and media due to a lot of our founding fathers and heads of industry, in fact, being Freemasons. Freemasonry is also open to the lowest ranking men and is rather easy to join depending on your location, but elites had congregated around more private lodges for some time because it created a private community point to network with others on their level. Sometimes you see jumps in other clubs or movements that celebrities or other industries move to instead of Freemasonry, all for the same basic reason of it providing a private networking point. But where does the cult idea play into Vox here? Well, Vox emphasized in particular how he wants to become a god. But this isn't just figurative, as he's the one who brings up this cult, as Valentino calls it, while talking about his plans. This was a group Vox was a leader of, with an important movement he was trying to push through his medium of television, and while discussing this, we get imagery of Vox's logo. Sometimes we see VoxTech's logo with its V, and sometimes we see it as 3 V's branded together to represent the entire trio. But in every case, it always just looks to me like half of a Freemason logo, which involves 2 intercepting triangles. Even just one of these triangles can be used to allude to Freemasonry, however, as Freemasonry is about building and architecture. Because of that, 2 of its key symbols are the Tower of Babel as well as the Egyptian pyramids, with both being used as representations of the human attempts to rise to heaven, to conquer the known world by constructing these giant buildings all over it. Thus, while the V is a reference to Vox himself, it also seems to purposely be an upside-down pyramid for the sake of this symbolism. To emphasize this connection, we even see Vox's lightning make the shape of the V as soon as he says he wants to become a god. Freemasonry isn't even the only mystery school to use this triangular symbolism, but in all cases, they use an initiation ceremony based on the ancient Egyptian ritual of the pharaohs discussed earlier.